Hey all, welcome to the upstream marketing team meeting for Kubernetes. We're in the SIG contributor experience as a subgroup. Welcome, welcome. Happy mid-December. For many of us, going to be celebrating or at least taking some time off next week. So that is a great way to start this meeting. So remember that. And I'm Matt. I'm the editor for this group and the lead. Got a bunch of other people on who are pretty regular. Anyone else want to introduce themselves if they're new or just say hi?
Hi, I'm Abubakar Ango, Developer Evangelism Program Manager at GitLab.
Amazing.
I was at the ContribEx meeting 3 days ago, where Paris was mentioning about roles that require filling in the marketing group. So I showed interest, and she mentioned meetings are usually held on Friday. So I made it a note to RSVP to this and join.
Perfect. Well, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great. And Karthikeyan, I see you're out there with a new logo. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm kind of not willing to show off my face today.
You're fine. You're fine. Do your thing. You're great. And Piyush, it's good to hear your voice. Chris, welcome. How are you doing?
I am here.
Cool. I'll take that. That is a big win. Speaking of wins, we always start this meeting. So, I'm going to start doing this pretty regularly, just as a reminder to get the cadence out there that our goal in the upstream marketing team, we also go by contributor comms, is to help people contribute to Kubernetes in ways that are non-code contribution, and to spread the stories of people contributing in all ways across all channels. Kind of be that glue between the different teams, be helpful where we can. And with that in mind, we're rolling into the end of the year, wanted to kind of reflect a little on what we've done so far and see what status we're at on a couple things in progress. And yeah, just get ideas like how we're going to continue with that mission in 2021 without being too too idealistic about how the year will go. Like, what are some little steps we can take to get there? But we always start with kind of updates or big wins. I'm not sure if everyone was able to make it, but the Kubernetes celebration last week was really pretty awesome. It seemed like it got a lot of people engaged with each other, using Discord and talking. Anyone else have a chance to participate, play some games, or hang out?
I was there for the bake off. It was so cool. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was done very well. I was very pleased in how it turned out.
That's cool. For those that didn't know about it, yeah, there is a we kept changing the name, not the best for marketing, but it was some sort of CNCF bake-off hosted by Paul Zerkowski, and I was one of the hosts with a couple other great people in our community, and there are 8 bakers, including Paris, who was amazing and so fun to watch, like, bake a cake. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was also like a good example of, like, Paul hadn't contributed in a way like that before, and I'm trying to pull him into this group because I think even though he does like to code sometimes, like, his idea of connecting us through baking and cooking is really fun. Good. All right. Well, yeah.
Sorry,
Please.
just to add, I did attend, but I guess one of the things that I felt didn't work out was we didn't have anything in the APAC time zones or EMEA time zones for that matter. We thought about it, but we couldn't come up with anything. So we thought, okay, we'll skip it this time. But yeah, next year probably would have something for here as well.
This is a perpetual problem with doing anything live, right? Like,
yeah.
I have the same problem running OpenShift TV, right? Like, it's you can't hit every time zone with one live thing. It's just impossible, right?
Yeah, right. I mean,
and I feel like, if we had like a breakout team to handle APAC and like a few of us to kind of bridge that gap, that would be cool for next year.
Yep. Yeah, I guess that would be cool. Let's see how it plans out next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I was asked earlier this month, find a time that works for Central Time and Japan. And I'm like, that doesn't exist. No.
Yeah. Like, so this Earth thing we're on.
Yeah,
round?
there's this round and it has this thing called time zones.
Yeah.
And the sun moves around it. And those time zones are based on when the sun hits.
It's really one of those moments that you wish you were a flat earther so that you'd be like, yeah, there's just one time zone. We're all just on a flat earth together. Perfect. It would be a lot simpler.
Life would be so easy.
Yeah.
So much easier.
I mean, I would appreciate one time zone somehow, some way.
But yeah, Piyush, yeah, our jokes aside, like I'm completely in agreement that I would just say like, yeah, we dropped the ball on making it an international affair, right? Like it was during KubeCon NA, and I think it just kind of defaulted to let's just focus on KubeCon NA, like North America. But that's not it's not a terribly representative of our community.
No.
So something to keep in mind. But I don't want to just keep it in mind. I want if you have ideas on now we've seen it once, but if you have ideas on how to expand it or how we can get in front of it a little further.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't call this as a mistake or like didn't work out thing.
Sure.
This is probably a lesson learned. Probably, I mean, in the best way, the lesson learned, because we always focused on the contributor meetings and contributor workshops on related to the KubeCon and the place where it is happening, like KubeCon EA, KubeCon EU, KubeCon NA, like that. So I guess that's how this got started. And since it was virtual, like we thought of like doing it, okay, this is virtual, so let's just send out the invite to the K community, like KK, everyone in the KDev. Probably, if I may add something, suggestions, sort of thing, like we have the Kubernetes days in India. Maybe we can add a light version of the like contributor celebration to contributor day, like Kubernetes days in India, like followed by Kubernetes days in India, right? Because we don't have a KubeCon in India or stuff like that. So, or Cloud Native Conference, I mean, one on the same. So we have Kubernetes days in India, and there are places where we have Kubernetes days where we don't, and we cannot really put a full-fledged conference like the KubeCon. So we could put a light version of contributor celebration event alongside or after Kubernetes days.
Brilliant. Yeah, and is that something run through the CNCF or is it run by local meetup hosts?
No,
it's CNCF.
It's a CNCF event. Yeah. So it's been happening for past 2 years. I'm not sure what's going to happen in 2021, but
when is it usually? I forgot.
It usually happens beginning of the year, probably February, March, those kind of stuff. Yeah.
I guess it's too much of stress to do it in the beginning of the year.
Well, yeah.
No, well, I mean, if it's March, that's a way big difference than like January or February, right? Like,
that's right.
I'm pretty sure we could muster up something for March. It might not be like the full thing, but it's definitely something.
But Piyush, I want you to host a bake-off, like.
Right.
And Rajula.
I could get some friends, you know.
Or you find somebody who would really enjoy it. But it was quite fun, and it's the coordination is not too bad. It's like a combo of OBS and Zoom and kind of and then streaming it. But anyway, we're jumping ahead. But that is something maybe we can continue to build like a little bit of a run book of like these break-off events that were successful and really fun, like document why it was fun, how it worked, what we did to support it. That's right. I think I'm getting Paul to write up what he did to manage it so that we can maybe, use it as maybe not exactly a template, but just an example. And then we can iterate for different regions, different goals.
Right. Like some best practices to get the best experience.
yeah, like I wouldn't know to like the way he set up the video feeds and like
Mhm.
the tools that he used to get it together and like the way he had us all use green screen so that he could filter behind us and like there's just a lot of little touches that were
Right.
nice.
Right.
Um, great, and they might not work elsewhere if like with bandwidth restrictions or concerns,
Yeah.
but you know you can make other things work.
True.
Great. Well, this is not your normal meeting. We would normally go through like, are there articles in progress? Are there PRs that we need to talk through? But I did want to like kind of bring us up into the kind of a little bit of an end of year conversation of how do we keep making the path of contribution more straightforward for people in the new year? What are you all thinking about things that we need to do, progress we need to make on different parts? I'm thinking specifically on like how we can lighten the barrier of entry to writing a blog post without needing to code as much, and writing a tweet without needing to code, or other things. I just want to open up this conversation of like, what does the Kubernetes community need to lighten the load?
Right. I'm gonna start with something that happened like a couple of days back. So I had a meetup event. I was presenting about something on Kubernetes Bangalore, which is virtual again. So there were like a couple of questions popped up, and they were asking like, I don't know anything about Golang, but I do want to contribute to Kubernetes. How am I going to do that? Actually, I spent like almost 5 to 10 minutes on explaining you must not need to know Golang to contribute to a community like Kubernetes. And I was explaining all the Kubernetes repositories. So the one thing I understand or I learned from that question is like there is there is a good amount of good population out in the outside world in the market. Like they don't know these are the repositories that they can contribute, even though if they don't want to code. There was also a question like, what is a release shadow thing? Like, how would I do on that? So and I actually forgot to talk about the article stuff, but I did talk about K community, marketing, Slack infra, all the non-coding stuffs that we have. I was actually explaining them. So that's one thing I would say. Like we probably need to have a more. I wouldn't say like an aggressive injection of the information into the population, but somewhere like a welcoming way. In a welcoming way, we need to inject all these informations into the community. Like they don't need to know Golang. If they know Java, they can still contribute to Kubernetes by Java client. If they know Python very well, they can contribute to Python client. If they are good at testing, they can contribute to Pro. So something like that. So
If
if
they're
they
an
don't know
ops
coding or
person,
anything,
there's an info
yeah,
repo for them, like there's
exactly.
yeah. I'm picking up what you put
So
down.
even though like, okay, I don't want to do anything on the contribution side, but I'm using Kubernetes too much. I just want to tell that how amazing it is. So they can come to us. They can tell about their like story. They can tell the story. Or I just know the coding. I don't want to. I mean, I have, say for example, in a scenario like I'm too much occupied in my company in my day job, so I cannot actually contribute to the code side of that. But I can give examples of the YAML documents and the constructs there. So they can do that. We have an example repository which they can actually contribute and make more easy for rest of the users. So we need to give this amount of, we need to flood this information amongst the community and the population that are like kind of a stakeholder in any way to Kubernetes. And then we it's one way of welcoming them. It's one way of like actually so that's the thing I learned, that there is a lot more information that we need to share that still not a lot of people are aware of. Sorry if this was too long, but that was the
No, that was wonderful.
bottom point of that.
Yeah. No, I
That's
absolutely.
perfect. Yeah.
Incredibly good point. And did you get any ideas on like where are they looking? Right? Like
I just gave them Cage Dev.
Yeah, like that's the fire.
And I told them like, yeah. So I gave them Cage Dev, and I told them like everybody who is in like who is affiliated with Kubernetes Dev community are in Slack. You can go and ask, even do a DM to them. They'd be like very happy to help you out on that. Like join Slack, cage.slack.io, and then Cage Dev. That's the two links I gave them.
Cool. That's good. Just I was curious what they gravitated to and whether where you pointed them. Great.
Yeah, and I also took the opportunity of asking them to follow KH contributors handle. I did see a few of them followed, so it was nice.
Nice. Well done.
Yeah. I wonder if we could do a blog post kind of thing, right? Because there are like levels to developer skills, but there's levels to like community skills, right? Like we could say like not entry level, but like non-coder, right? Like here's all the things you can do, because that's me, right? Like, I mean, I've been in the community for 4 years. I'm not a coder. You know, I've
Right.
committed code or, you know, changes to the repos though, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's a bunch of things I've done. It's one of those things where it's like, if you're an ops person, there's a place for you. If you're a great writer, there's a place for you. If you're a great coder in another language, there's a place for you.
Yeah, I think the thing that comes to mind for me is like there's a kind of tyranny of choice. There's so many ways, so many places to go to.
yeah.
It's such a massive landscape that it's really, you know, people talk about architecture, like when marketing
Yeah.
simplifies an architecture with a few boxes. And yeah, that's generally inaccurate by some definition of accuracy. But I think like that's what we need to do for the Kubernetes community. We need to create a boxy 101 introduction to where do I go hang out? What do I do when I get there? Because I have no idea and there's too many options.
Not to pull another markety kind of term out, but funnels, right? Like we need to create those entry point funnels and figure out where they need to land, right?
Yeah. So
the one other thing we used, so the Nabarum was also part of that meet. He was also he also joined there. Like he also shared the series of tweets from DIMS. So he has the series of tweets like, where do I contribute? Where do I go for the contribution? Like contribute towards Kubernetes if I'm a beginner. Or, like he has that pinned in his profile on Twitter. So he also shared that. That was also a good one. But I guess that both of them are same one and the same with the KH instead of getting started. And then,
hey, if I could, Abu Barak, I know you're new here. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I also want to put you on the spot because you're an evangelist. So like that's kind of your job. I'm curious. You took that first step of showing up to a meeting and being here. So like, what's on your mind when it comes to taking that next step? Like what worked and what are you hoping to do now that you're here?
Yeah, I think I have experience in the community, having been an organizer for the Google Developer Group and Google Cloud Developer Group. So it can be daunting at first to when coming to the Kubernetes community, because just like Piyush has been mentioning, everyone thinks you need to be a developer to contribute. And that's one thing I've also experienced personally, because I even picked up some courses and a book to learn Go, but work hasn't really permitted. So I think the main part where I'll be actively participating is attending meetings like this to see where probably I can help, or where my experience, or where where there are openings or opportunities for me that for me to contribute that are not currently being met in a meeting. Since probably me going through issues might not yield much result, or I don't have any clear direction of exactly where to go. So appearing in meetings like this and paying attention to the agenda and everything being discussed, I'll be able to pick up on the pace of, okay, how things are done, how things happen. From there, I can then lend a hand anytime help is needed.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's exactly like, I think that's a really, the message I'm hearing in there is like showing up is contribution. And like, maybe we haven't said that verbatim out there, like that to show up is a great first step, and it could be the step that you stay at for a very long time. And you will be appreciated because you're adding knowledge to this group of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like that. That was a brilliant idea. Probably we can say like whenever we are saying like where can I contribute, the first statement we can make is like show up on some meetings and understand like what they are doing. So
that's typically
Yeah.
what I tell people, right? Like when they ask me directly, like, how do I get involved? It's like, figure out which SIG you want to get involved with. Okay, you figure that out, then you got to go to the meeting. That's it. You're involved. Welcome to the community, right? Like once you get past the
Chris,
CLA and everything else, off you go.
There comes the experience. You are an experienced mentor.
Very.
I
Fair
also
enough.
think trying to figure out SIG is a daunting experience because I think I spent
No, that's
a lot
fair.
of time going through all the SIGs, trying to understand what exactly they do and how I come in. So I think if there's a way we can probably create a path where, okay, if you're a total beginner, you can start joining from here or join from here, depending on your type of experience. These are the SIGs you might be interested in, or if you are a core developer or something, these are the SIGs you might be interested in. That can go a long way because the project is a lot of resources to sift through to know where to start from.
Right. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that, Abubakar. That's a great point. Right. When I started, that was one of the things that where do the people who don't want to contribute in code, where do they go? Right. And it took me some
Nowhere.
time to figure out the ContribEx, right? At least that okay, there is ContribEx, and then there are going to be sub projects and all those things. Uh, Not to put it in too markety way, but we need to make SIP ContribEx more sexy, right? That has to happen.
Well, what I hear is like make it more attractive, make people in the sense like they gravitate to it and know that it's their home and know that they can add value there.
Yeah.
I have a slightly mild difference in the opinion with Abubakar and Krish both. So what Chris said is like you have to figure out what SIG you want to go. What Abubakar said is like figuring out which SIG I want to go is that comes with an experience. So that's the next level. So what I would say is like both of them are right. The reason Abubakar and Piyush, I might be misrepresenting or misunderstanding, but the reason Abubakar or Piyush might be thought about that is like going through all the SIGs and reading all the readmes, because when Krish said, I was thinking about the readme because every single readme of every single SIGs has its own scope and what they are doing, what they're going to do. So that's yes. And yes, it is painful to go through all the SIG readmes as well. Maybe if it is not too much, we can ask the SIG leads, the leads of every single SIG to have like 30 seconds to 1 minute of a video where they can actually say what they're going to do or what they are doing or what they will be doing and put it in. I guess this would like be kind of making it sexy, but I don't know. But going through a video of a minute or something like that to understand what SIG does, maybe it's just my opinion.
So we kind of, I don't know if we still do this, to be honest with you. We used to have a SIG meet and greet at every contributor summit, and with everything being virtual, like that's hard now, right? So maybe we do in the new year try to put on a SIG meet and greet, like live, and just have like there's SIG members on every region, right? Like just have somebody sitting on a call, have some producer in the background helping them, kind of deal.
I see those on the schedule sometimes. So there's just a little bit of a disconnect that even we don't necessarily know when it's going on because we're not checking regularly. But I love the idea of making it asynchronous and permanent as opposed to like temporal and you have to show up in this time zone. But like these video series that are really like too long didn't read. But Abubakar, what were you going? I think you're going to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to add to what Govind said, that the videos would be a good way, but I think if we can have something like a persona or something like that, where if you are a writer, these are the places you might want to go. If you are very good at social media, these are the SIGs that might need your help or might need your assistance. If you are a test engineer, these are probably the places that you might want to go. That way, we've reduced or make the stress of knowing how to help lessened. And people can be able to easily, because most times it's just like user experience, the experience of knowing where to start and how to go from the beginning will will determine whether the person will continue looking for how to contribute or decide to, okay, maybe some other time, and keep procrastinating because he can't figure it out. Then he keeps procrastinating.
Just a fun side story here. I have been lurking in the Kubernetes community for 3 years, and I only started contributing during COVID because I wasn't able to see anybody in person. I'm like, I decided that like, instead of going for quantity and like spreading myself thin like I normally do, I'm just going to try to go quality, like focus just here, see if I can add value. And if it fails, at least I tried something concrete. And it's been phenomenal. So my intention, I'm writing an article. I'll probably get it published on opensource.com since I work there. On the working title is like how I became a maintainer of Kubernetes with 4 hours a week. Like I'm trying to do some sort of like time bound thing to help people be less scared about it. But I'm thinking, what I'm starting to think about is like, how do we move from like this really powerful discussion into each of us taking, if we have the time, like some step to share our own stories, because I really do think the gap is in different stories on different places. And no matter what you write about, however you write about it, like Chris, you saying you're a non-code contributor, I never would have thought of you that way. Like that's a really cool, like you claim that brand in a very positive way when it's usually sometimes has a negative connotation. Right. And like, I want to do a time bound one because I feel like that's the stressor a lot of people bring up. Like, I don't have time for this. But my intention is to get it published on that site because I kind of know how we write for that. And I'm happy to coach anyone else to get published there. And then syndicate it. So republish part of it on the kubernetes.io blog and link them together. Does anyone else, like, based on what we're talking about, whether you want to like draw a flow chart of like how to contribute, or maybe pursue getting videos from some SIG leads, which sounds challenging but rewarding. Any concrete ideas we should write down at this point? I just like to grab those throughout the meeting so we don't lose all the good ideas.
I mean, I would be happy to write up something about like how I got involved or whatever, if that helps. You know,
in a nutshell, like, what's your contributor story?
Right.
Like 300
I would
plus
have to
words.
I would have to figure that out, but yes.
Well, personally, I'd throw the pitch that like you saying like how I see myself as we need more non-code contributors. Like that would be maybe like the working title, and like you explain how you contribute as a non-code contributor, right, and how you mentor other people to get into the system, whether they code or don't code. Like you have a huge impact in a way that I don't think people would realize. Yeah, I think you have a great story there, personally.
Yeah, I've just got to figure out how to make it 300 words. That's it. And I've probably already written it down in multiple places, just need to pull it together. Yeah.
Yeah. Rujula, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I just have a quick thing. I really like the flowchart thing. So I was thinking, so different SIGs might have different contributors. So the SIGs have more idea of what kind of contributors they have. Like, can we just send out like a survey asking people what kind of contributions they receive and how can actual people contribute? So in a way, we can get all the data, different SIGs and different kinds of contributions. Probably then it's easy to make a flowchart.
Interesting. Cool. Would you be willing to connect with, I think Josh Burkus would be your best bet there. He kind of leads the surveying of contributors. He's a great survey writer too. So maybe you could ping him and bounce the idea off him.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you need me to do an intro, let me know. I'm happy to help there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
He's Fuzzy Chef, which is one of my favorite Twitter handles.
Yes.
Other concrete ideas? Again, like I know there's a lot going on over this time, so you don't have to sign up for more than you have time for. But I've been wanting to write this article for 6 months and I blocked some time. Okay.
I'll maybe pick up something once I'm back at Pacific time zone. So sorry for this. Yeah, I'll be like back by April.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Cool.
Safe travels, my friend. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. All right, great. Okay. So another idea that was floating around, this was really great, kind of broader scope, but to narrow in the scope, blogging in our community is a very technical feat. Like you go from this, you get an idea and you're not sure where to put it first. And then we generally guide you to put it into a Google Doc. And then it's ... through a wild markdown pull request review process, which, we can't fix that in a lot of ways, but maybe we could fix like the initial step. I was thinking about pitching embedding a blog submission form on kubernetes.dev, the dev community, asking specifically for contributor content. And I am pretty familiar with how to set that up in a way to maybe we can reject the spam. You'll always get spam, but just to provide people with a way of contributing a blog idea without needing to know exactly where to be in the Kubernetes community.
I mean,
Pros, cons.
Yeah.
Go
I
for
made
it,
a
Chris.
face and I'll explain it, right?
Oh, you're great. Yeah, go for it.
I think the amount of spam you're going to get is going to be so astronomical that it could be a full-time job just managing that. So
just for reference, I do this for opensource.com that has about 3.5 million readers a month. And,
okay. I mean, I know, but like Kubernetes is a different beast. Just keep that in mind.
But there's no way in hell that site gets more than 3.5 million page views a month.
Not Kubernetes.dev, but the second that form is out there and people find out about it, it's going to get flooded.
It's going to get some content for sure, or it's going to get some interest, but just put all the disclaimers where if it's not from a contributor, then we won't even respond. We review it. My proposal is we review it once a week in this meeting, so no one's on like constant interruption duty to check it, and it's very optional. But yeah, no, I hear you loud and clear. It's definitely Kubernetes, you might say, is a big deal.
I mean,
and especially for content marketers who will be looking for a place to contribute it.
To kind of echo Paris, like whenever we do something, we need to think about what we're doing, because Kubernetes scale has broken many things like GitHub and Slack in the past. So we need to just be cautious of that, right?
I hear you. Others pro or against the idea of creating a way for people to contribute blog ideas through a guided form?
I think it's going to create a lot of spam, that's for sure. And I think you can, if you're like already that's hosted on Netlify, so we can actually filter it whether it is a contributor or not, the submitter is the author of the content is. But even though if we do that, we have like 130,000 plus contributors that are part of the Kubernetes org and Kubernetes 6. So it's going to be too much. That's one thing I would like kind of fear about. But on the other side also, yes, it would get a lot of good articles as well, a lot of good submissions as well. So the process I don't envision is like, how are we going to, because we don't have a full-time FTE who's sitting behind that form and filtering manually, okay, this is good, this is bad, like that. Like we don't have a FTE to do that. So that's only one thing I would be more concerned on, like how are we going to do that? Like if we have good funding, we could use the full capability of Netlify.
So I'm hearing also similar concern of spam and time.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah. And to add a thought, right? Rather than inviting ideas, why don't we just invite people to, kind of intern with us, just to say lack of a better word, like the release team does, right? Every release, they just gather up people and they do the work, right? So why don't we get some people, let's say every quarter, 6 months, or whatever it is, and we just help them, guide them through writing some stuff, invite applications, and do all that sort of thing. Probably that can be formed into something better, but that would at least help us filter the number of people who are actually writing stuff. And that way we only get the people who are actually interested in doing something.
That's interesting. So I really enjoy that because it's something I've learned from working on publications for a few years now is that when you invite somebody, they feel honored. And like that is a good first step. And then if we offer to coach them through the process and reduce the friction of it, I feel like it's got a decent chance of having results.
I just have a quick thing to what you just said.
Yeah.
What do you think of an idea of like a shadow program for the blogs? Say you, Kathleen, and Chris, who have been writing blogs. Like we have a lot of issues for the blog, so we can just pick up new people. We can coach them through a blog, and then they might coach new people later. So we can just
Great
get a
idea.
cycle.
Kind of like a train the trainer, coach
Yeah.
the coach type thing.
Yeah. It's like we're just making a shadow program for the marketing team, similar to the release team.
Yeah. So you'd say like how would we frame that so that people want to do it? You're saying like we would say like, hey, we're gonna host a how to write a blog series and you
Mhm.
will get certified. Like I'm going
No,
probably the wrong
it's
pathway
like
here.
we're trying to help non-code contributors to write blogs. So say there are people who have technical skills who want to contribute. So we have a lot of issues for blogs. Say we have new blog ideas. So each one of them can pick an idea. So one of us can actually coach them through how to do it. So how do we do it? The hack MD, how do we contact the SIG, all the process, and then they can come up with a blog. So once they do that, they know the process. So they can teach another person later how to write a blog, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. Basically, make sure other people know the process so that they can
It's like
teach it to others.
yeah, by making it sound like a program, we can kind of get more non-code contributors.
Yeah.
Like it kind of has a schedule, organized things. So we can get more blogs as well.
So the thing I'm getting caught up on is we have that program. We have a line item that says we have a blogging program and we have people that blog and we have, to cut the Kane's point, 130-ish thousand people around. So we're not flooded right now and we're not getting interest. And the story I'm telling myself is because it's hard. Like people
Okay.
don't know where to start. They don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to.
Is it hard or just is it time consuming? I mean, I know it's hard, but it is also time consuming.
Yeah, those are definitely correlated.
And like when you put the two together, that's going to drive people away, right?
Yeah, but like Rajula has a great idea of like if we give something a name, if we make a program that's like attractive. So maybe we like what we call the blogging team in this group is not. It's clearly not an attractive enough term where people want to sign up for it. So like reframing it is really effective.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I mean, we
Rajula,
have to
would
be.
you agree, or am I going the wrong direction? I'm open to either.
Maybe we can get more opinions from Kathleen and someone else. Then like
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, I like the idea of it.
yeah, I think we might
just
need
gotta-
more time to do this. So that's another thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like if we want to keep if you're like me and you're trying to like keep the amount of time you spend per week contributing to this pretty tight, like we have to clearly scope whatever we're doing or it will just leak into, if we're now helping people work through their articles and we've got to coordinate with their calendars, you know, getting an article over the line can take 8 to 10 hours over a couple weeks easily. So do we have the resources? Like, do we have the documentation of how this works in the right place? And then for me, it's like, I don't really know what the steps are yet. If we can define clear steps, we can guide people through them in like a reasonably set amount of time. But yeah, a lot of moving parts.
One suggestion of what I think I have is especially around people submitting blog suggestions and so on, is if we can use the issues in the project, the GitHub issues.
Mm-hmm.
Create like a template where once you create a new issue, you have a template of things to fill and certain labels to apply. And that way we'll be able to filter it to be that people who are already contributors who have signed the CNCF agreement
Yeah.
will be able to create issues. That is one filter. The next one is they have to specify some certain labels depending on the kind of topic they will be talking about. That way we can then probably say, okay, someone should probably review suggestions that are maybe Kubernetes or storage or any other thing. That way we are able to reduce spam, and some bot or something can be used to do some other things with the issues to make managing them much more easier and better. And also discussions will happen under the comments because it's in the public view. More people can probably contribute ideas or provide more suggestions to the original suggestion.
Okay, I want to make sure I got the pieces. So start with a GitHub issue template to keep the conversation there. And then you mentioned connecting that to Slack.
No, I meant a bot, probably a
Sure.
bot that's connected to GitHub to probably clean up based on labels. The same way it's on the main Kubernetes project, where if after some time it tells you that okay, this issue is stale, and so on. Yeah, something like that to probably filter spam or do some other housekeeping to make sure the conversations are moving or the issues are being handled appropriately. But the most important thing to guide people is because having to start with an empty text box to typing might be confusing to people. But if we have like a template, okay, the title, the same way we do for CFPs, where to submit your suggestion, it will make it a bit easier.
I like that.
Hey, y'all, I've got to drop. Great ideas. Let me know how I can help. I'll see y'all next time.
Yeah, write up your thoughts if they come to mind. Take care. Have a wonderful Christmas if you're celebrating, and Happy New Year, my friend.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I'll take it easy.
Bye,
Happy
guys.
New Year.
Bye-bye.
New Year and Happy Christmas.
Yeah. Oh, Happy Christmas. I love that. Hanging out with too many Americans. Cool. I dig that, Abu Bakar. This idea of like, it's very important that we use the same infrastructure that we're already using and not branch off too hard. That will somewhat limit people's perception. Like they might think if I'm submitting a GitHub issue, I am coding, and that might scare me. But if we can, I've kind of had this maybe a little bit of a far-fetched idea of just like, what would it be like for people to not have to see Markdown even? Because I know learning Markdown's not trivial. Like I know it feels simple once you know it, but it's not simple. And we sometimes, in technology groups kind of trivialize things like Git, which Git is freaking complicated.
We need a text to markdown converter or something like that.
There's a really, really good one built into this is an aside, but I've been following it. There's a JavaScript library built into Discourse, the open source community platform. And I have been trying to extract the JavaScript from it just for how they convert a copy paste document. When you paste from Google Docs in there, it's perfect Markdown every time. And that's crazy hard. I don't know what they do to do that. Well, I do, it's in the code, but like, I've been trying to think about what to do with that. Like it's better than any of the extensions in Google Docs directly. So I actually copy and paste from Google Docs into Discourse, don't post it, and then I paste it into a Markdown sheet.
That's nice. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, when I started with Markdown, it was hard to figure out a lot of things. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't know. We need something that can help with that as
Yeah,
well.
your idea of using Google Forms
Hmm.
is also a great one. But we can use AppScript for people to
Yes.
use Google Forms. Then in AppScript, probably make API calls to GitHub or whichever way to automate and do some other things in the background for the data to be more easier for the team to manage and handle, and also easier for anyone who wants to contribute to do it as seamless as possible. It opens up more room for automation and protection against spam.
Yeah. No, you're completely right. I kind of forgot to consider that. Yeah, AppScript is a very powerful automation platform built into Google Docs if you need to, basically. My JavaScript's pretty terrible, but it could be a step to to filtering, like just being like, hey, if you've never contributed to Kubernetes, we will not even review this submission. So go submit, go open an issue, go talk to somebody. Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Please.
How are they doing the KHIO case study articles? Like, who's doing that? Who is organizing and who is collecting those case study documents?
I don't know.
Do you think it might be worth to get some insights from them? Like, because it's Kubernetes.io, and the case studies are published there. So there should be some existing process to collect all the case studies from all the Kubernetes users and the companies that they are using Kubernetes.
Yeah. There's definitely a ton to learn from there. I imagine that's through, you're saying this is on cncf.io?
No, Kubernetes.io, I guess. Let me quickly get that.
Oh, I might be mixing up what you're talking about here.
No, it's in Kubernetes.io. I'm just gonna ping you that and
Please.
Zoom. Just go on.
Yeah, so I think we end 10 minutes before the top of the hour. So I'll just kind of bring us to a close by saying, yeah, we're going into a new year, and I think we only have existed for about 6 months, maybe 8 months if you're being generous. And this group's already been asked to help in the blog subgroup of documentation, to help manage some of the community outreach when something goes right and when something goes wrong. We're being asked to tweet things, which means people actually care what we tweet, which is hard to do. So we've really kind of integrated ourselves into the Kubernetes community in a meaningful way. And it's very early though. So there's a huge opportunity to clarify how we integrate into other teams in meaningful ways, and how to reduce the friction of non-code contribution. And to keep writing some cool code, because Rajula does that, and Karthikeyan, you do as well. The rest of us are a little lacking on that so far. But yeah, keep contributing. Really excited to see what we end up doing in the coming year, and catch up with you in 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks all.
Good.
All
Yeah.
right.
Have a good time. Have good